Welcome back to For Couples Only, where we create a safe space to discuss and explore the issues and challenges that surround those who are in relationships. Now, today we are going to be talking about something that probably affects maybe 40% of the population in the US, and that is caring for our older parents and how it affects the family dynamics. So today we have with us Miss Bethany Robbins, and she is a caretaker for those who either do not have family members to help them, or the family members have hired her to provide that care for their elderly parents. So Bethany, give us a little background about what you do.
I am a caregiver. Caregivers assist with the activities of daily living of your loved ones, such as bathing, little light housekeeping, helping with medications, taking them to the doctor's appointment. I would say if you're becoming a caregiver, the first thing to do is to be honest and do an assessment. Like when I get a call and say, Bethany, can you come take care of mom? I want to know, how is your house? Because mom has to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have safety bars that mom can grab onto when she have to use the bathroom or when she have to take a shower? Do you have rugs in your house? Because with rugs, a lot of elderly people tend to fall and trip. Do we need to remove these rugs? When we're getting your loved one in and out of the house, do you have any rails, any handrails going up the stairs? Do you have stairs? Okay. So I look at safety first. And then I look at what medication does this patient need, their medical history, what are their doctor visits? Because that's very important, because now as a caregiver, you're in charge of this person's health. So we make sure that we have the doctors lined up, we have the doctor visits, we have the medication, we have schedule. Okay. And also, like a family member taking care of your loved one, you're also their caregiver. So you want to think about bringing other family members in. Like, let's do shift work. Let's do teamwork. You're going to do Monday through Friday. You're going to do day shift. You're going to do night shift. You're going to do weekends. That way you won't tire yourself up, because taking care of someone can be also very tiresome. And also, you always want to include the caregivers in their plan of care. You know, mom may like to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Let's keep mom on that routine. Let's get mom up. Let's get her bathed. Let's get her dressed. Let's get her some breakfast. Let's get her medication in her. Ask her how she's doing. Let's keep her with a social activity. Let's take her to bingo. Let's get her out the house. You know, with COVID, and COVID's going to still be here, but it's still stuff we can do so they won't be lonely and depressed. And also, as a caregiver, let's think about what we sometimes don't want to talk about. Say for if the person gets sick and they have to go to the hospital, do they have advanced directory? Advanced directory is a more concrete form of paperwork that you can get, and it's best to do it while your patient or a family member is here. They're in their right state of mind and they're talking, because they can tell you, if I go to the hospital and I start breathing, just let me go. Or if I go to the hospital and I start breathing, I want to be resuscitated. I want to be on life support. Give me 3 days to live. I want Tiffany to be over everything. Let's get all that documented. So when that time comes, we don't have to worry about how we're going to fix the situation.
So let me ask you something, Bethany, because I want to go back to the assessment part, because that's very important, because some families may live in a 2-story home. Some families may live in a, 1-level rent style. So do you call, like if you get a call, so let's say I call you and I say, I want you to come in and care for my dad. Do you do the home, like you come in and just assess the home first? Is that important when the families are looking and calling around? Is that something they should be asking? Can you come do a home assessment first?
Yes, that's very important, because sometimes you can get to a home and they don't have the proper equipment to even use the bathroom. They don't have a potty chair, a mobile toilet. Like I said, they don't have any rails that the patient can hold on to when they're getting dressed or using the potty, or when they're taking a shower. You want to evaluate the shower. Some are walking, some are stepping. Can this person actually walk into the shower?
Right.
Without assistance? And you get to the home, you're like, oh, now this is another problem for the family. It may be financial. How can they afford to, redo their bathroom?
Exactly. So if, let's say, okay, we have couples or those who are, living together, whatever the situation is, and mom or mother-in-law, one of their parents, we got to move them in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because that's happening a lot, right? Mm-hmm. We can't necessarily afford that long-term care, so mom's coming to stay with us, dad's coming to stay with us. Tell me about the family dynamics you see when that happens, when mom or dad moves in. So now we got husband, wife, mom, mother-in-law, whatever, kids running around. Tell me about how some of the things you see, the family dynamics of that.
Really, to be honest, it's great because like you got grandma coming in, so the grandkids are happy. Say for like if it's your mother-in-law, your husband is totally happy. My wife is on board. He's helping me take care of my mom. This is going to be great. And you see teamwork. So I haven't been in a situation where it's like somebody's sad or depressed, somebody's moving in. It's more of a loving thing. And think about this. If this patient is sick, who do they want to be around? They want to be around their family.
Exactly. Now, you touched a bit about the financial aspect of it. So, because, let's just keep it real. I may have to remodel my bathroom for mom or dad. I may have to add a ramp. I may have to, do some different things. Can you suggest some things that families can do to prepare for their loved one moving in?
It is portable ramps, like at Home Depot. I know that someone, when he got his wife, she broke her hip. So she was in a wheelchair, so she had to go in backwards. So he got a portable ramp. Mm-hmm. You just lay it down on the ground and you pick it up when you're done. If you could go to Home Depot, you can install the bar ramps. Like in the house, you get it, you install it. So no one has to come in to do that. As far as the bathing goes, if the bathroom is not equipped for that patient, they would have to get like a bed bath. So they would not go without being bathed. It just, that feeling of that shower may take a little bit longer because, they don't have the proper equipment to get a shower. So it's a ways around it, not to stress yourself out.
Okay, so some inexpensive ways that we can make our parents feel comfortable in our home. Because that's important, because we have to keep in mind they're no longer in their home.
Right.
They're no longer in their space. They're now in someone else's space that they're trying to make their space or get a little piece of. So let's talk about maybe we're moving in our parents and they're mobile. They can get around. Maybe they can't drive, but they, walk around. They don't have any issues with walking or bathing themselves. But maybe forgetful, and you're starting to see maybe some signs of dementia. Is there anything you can recommend for our families who are caring for their loved ones who maybe are starting to show some of those signs?
Always show them pictures. If you got old movies, just reorientate them in the morning. If you have a board, say, good morning, today is Friday, the date and the time. Go back and say, do you remember this, Mom? This was my wedding day. You just always get their mind thinking and going. And reminiscing is a good way because it lifts up their spirit and it lets them know, oh, I used to do that, but this is where I'm at now.
Okay. Because we do want to make them feel comfortable. We don't want them to feel out of sorts or disoriented. And we do want them to feel like they are part of the family. Now, before my mother passed away, I moved her in with us, and she was the pickle. She could get around on her own and everything, but what do you do when my mom used to love, she absolutely loved her grandchildren, adored them 100%. And everything I said don't do, she turned around and do. I was like, do not give them this. She turned around and give it to them. Do not take them here. She turned around and take them. And I just, some days I just give up. I'll be like, you know what? I'm not even fighting today. So tell me a little bit about how maybe we can mesh those mesh that together where you've got the adoring grandparent, and they love their grandkids so much, but so have that conversation with your spouse, have that conversation with your significant other, and decide what it is you all want to do, and make sure you incorporate your family member, your mom or your dad or whoever it is, into that conversation. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on For Couples Only. Their boundaries.
Well, when the kids are not around, I said, Mom, now they can't have candy before dinner, and after dinner they can have candy. I just say little stuff like that when the kids are not around. And then, the kids, like you say, they're going to get the grandparents to do anything. Mm-hmm. And the grandparents are going to do it. So I would just say, just have a talk with the parent while the kid is not around.
Okay. Now, if you are moving your parent into your home where there are kids and there is obviously a generation gap, how do you suggest they mesh that generation gap? Because if you have maybe a 70-year-old, your mom's 70 or your dad's 70, and you've got teenagers running around or adolescents running around, obviously there's a clear generation gap there. So what are some suggestions you have for trying to, bridge that gap?
Like I would say like story time, like with your grandkids. They always want to know, what did my mother do at this age? What did my dad do at this? What happened during this time? Like my daughters asked my dad the other day, was born when Martin Luther King was born? It was like, they want to know what happened during. So, it's all, kids always want to know and they always want to learn. So if they can sit down and do that little history morning, that is awesome. And also when I touched on self-care with caregivers, find time for yourself. For example, my mom took care of my grandmother and she was on dialysis. So I showed my mom what to do. So I went there one day, I just seen my mom working nonstop. So when my grandmother went to dialysis, I told her, I said, you have to slow down. You're going to burn yourself out. While she's at dialysis, go do something. Go shopping. She got 3 hours. She was going for 3 hours.
Right.
Find something to do to regenerate yourself and come back. You're ready to take care of mom again. So self-care is also important when you're taking care of your loved ones.
Okay. And that, I want to talk about that some more, because caregiving can be stressful, especially if you have a loved one you're caring for that isn't maybe as mobile. So you're doing maybe a little more than you would than a parent who can walk on, go where they want to go on their own, and really just kind of need that minor caregiving. What kind of effect have you seen that has on the family, particularly maybe the husband and wife, when a parent is very medically, they need a lot medically?
That is stressful. And like I said earlier, that's why it's good to have other family members come in to help you guys. Because it can relieve the stress. Like say for mom can't walk. She in the bed. She need to be turned every 2 hours. Get with your sister. You come over here. We do this together. Tag team mom in the morning. Get her dressed. Get her turned. That's when it's going to come in. You're going to have to ask for help for your husband and for you, because your husband might be working. You might be home with mom or mother-in-law all day.
Right.
Or aunt, cousin, and sister. You need that other person to come in to help you and relieve you. That's going to relieve the stress. That's going to relieve the tag team. And because they're not mobile, maybe they have a wheelchair or electric wheelchair. So you can still let them, get a little bit I got my independence in a wheelchair. So that usually works.
Okay. What about incorporating the kids if they're old enough? What about incorporating the kids? Is that a good idea? If let's say I've got a 17-year-old at home, is it a good idea to incorporate the 17-year-old into the care of grandma or grandpa?
I think that's a great idea. For example, like I said, my mom was taking care of my grandmother who was on dialysis, and one Saturday I had to run an errand. So my mom had my kids along with my grandmother. So my daughter was 5 at the time. So she came in the room with my mom, put on some gloves, fixed my grandma's hair, got her dressed. And right now to this day, my daughter's now working in the medical field. So you never know where it's going to lead. And also, like I say, it's that bond with them kids and their grandkids. If they can take care of grandma, that make grandma really, really happy. You did a really good job today with grandma. Look at grandma. Look at her smile. They could comb their hair. They could put on their clothes.
Okay.
I think it's a good thing. It's not a chore. Remember, that's a family member.
Right. Exactly. Family. And that's what this whole thing is about. It's about family and taking care of our loved ones, because that's, like I said, more and more, that's what we're doing. Our parents, that generation is living longer and longer.
Right.
And so they may come to a point where they can't live on their own. It's not safe to live on their own, or maybe they just don't want to live on their own. Right. They just like, hey, I want to come stay with you guys and be around my grandkids and enjoy that. And so there are many different reasons why we may have to care for our loved ones, but that self-care is very, very, very important. So what do you suggest? You talked about I think it was Advance Directive. So what do you suggest? How do you suggest the family approach that with their loved one? Can be a touchy subject.
Yeah, so I'm saying it can be very, very touchy, but it is very, very important also. And when mom's coming in, whoever's coming in, they need that care. Sometimes, and to be honest, the person that you care for, they want it because they want that input, like what's going to happen to me. So, I would say, like I told my mom, I say, this is something that we have to talk about. What if, we're not saying it's going to happen, but what if it can happen to me? So at this time, how can we, some people incorporate social workers in, or they're church members. They like them come in and be a mediator. Depends on the family. But, you sit down and talk to them. If you go in the hospital today or tomorrow, what do you want to do? What you want me to have done for you? Do you want me to keep you alive on a life support? Or do you want me just to let you go peacefully? This is very important. Just explain how important this is. And also, I'm not going to say like some people say it's a burden, but I wouldn't see it as a burden if it was my loved one. But some people see it that way because if you have your affairs in order, it's better to move on. Exactly. We know what happens when affairs are not in order. Families tend to have conflicts.
Right. Things
don't work out.
Right.
And we got to do what's best for that patient that we're taking care of. If they have advanced directive and they say, I don't want to be left. If I cold right now, if my heart start beating, I start breathing, just let me go. Do not bring me back because I don't want to live on a machine. Okay. I don't know how I'm going to be after I get off the machine. Exactly. I don't know what state of mind I'm going to be. Can I still walk? Can I still feed myself? Can I still go to the bathroom? So, all that is important.
And those decisions are sometimes very, very hard for family members. It's like in the back of our mind. We know it's necessary, but we don't really want to deal with it because that's admitting that my parent or my loved one is not going to always be here. And that's often a reality we don't want to face because we just feel like mama's going to be here forever. Even though we know better, our heart says mom's going to be for her. I don't have to think about Advance Directive. But unfortunately, things happen. Accidents. It doesn't even necessarily have to be that our loved one is sick. It could just be a horrible accident that happened and now our loved one is no longer here or our loved one was hurt and in the hospital. And now we're faced with making these decisions that we didn't necessarily want to make.
Yeah, to keep them alive. And a friend of mine, she went in the hospital for childbirth. And it turned out the other way.
Wow.
And her family kept her alive. She was in a state where she was in a nursing home for 7 years.
Wow.
So at 39 years old to 7 years after that, you was in a nursing home.
Wow.
She had no advance directory.
Wow. And sometimes that can cause arguments in family members too. And you have to be able to know how to navigate that, especially if it's your parent or your in-laws, to be able to sit down with your spouse or your significant other and say, hey, my mom's moving in, my dad's moving in, and we need to talk about with my parent, the what ifs, the what ifs of the world, which, hey, no one's, we're not going to be here forever. And that is a very difficult conversation to have and can often cause a lot of heated moments. Because if I want it this way and maybe mom wants it this way, but the sibling is over here in the corner going, y'all not gonna do that. You know, that can cause
conflicts.
And cause a lot of conflict and strife. So it's important to have these conversations, like you said, when you're a parent, your loved one is in their right state of mind and can make these decisions. Well, thank you, Bethany, for joining us. I really appreciate it. I hope that this has helped someone. If you currently have a parent or loved one living with you, or are considering moving in your parent or loved one with you and your spouse or significant other, lots of things to consider, both with your house as far as safety and financially, and with your children if you have children. So have that conversation with your spouse, and have that conversation with your significant other, and decide what it is you all want to do, and make sure you incorporate your family member, your mom or your dad or whoever it is, into that conversation. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on For Couples Only.